Greetings! Today we're going to have a look at this Compaq Portable. It's about 40 years old and it was probably the first really successful PC clone. And on top of that, it was portable, luggable. Compaq demonstrated with this machine that the clean room approach to creating your own BIOS was legally sound, because I think they got sued by IBM, but IBM didn't get anywhere with it. And this was a very successful machine compared to a full-size IBM PC. Anyways, this thing, I picked it up and the seller turned it on. It worked fine. It had some screen hash, but something that I think was caused by dirty edge connectors, and everything seemed to work. So I brought it home and it developed a weird problem. Let's have a look. So we got the keyboard that folds into the case. We got a 360K double-sided, double-density floppy drive over here, and we also have a 10 megabyte mini scribe model 212 hard drive. Now I think what this is doing, it is checking memory and all of that. It doesn't have a BIOS setting thing like modern machines. You just have to sit here and wait. Okay, it checked the floppy, checked it again, and it goes and boots from the hard drive. So far, so good, right? So it boots up into one of the former owner's private data, which I am going to get out of, because I'm really not interested in what other people, what other people's personal use of these machines were. If there's like a neat looking utility or something on it, I'll keep it, but anything pertaining to personal data, I will just delete. And I was going to, but here's the problem we have. So let's see, I want to see a directory. So when I hit the enter key, it appended GD Control Z A through the command and kicked it. When I try to backspace, it prints something. So I can't enter anything. It just puts garbage characters on the screen. Well, the good part is that the monitor is in very good shape. Fans pretty quiet, things seem to work, but there's really not a whole lot I can do with this because the keyboard is acting up. Doing some research on this, is the keyboard is of the capacitive kind, meaning it has assemblies inside and little capacitive discs. When you press a key, the capacitance of that particular key changes, which is detected by the computer as a key press. Space works. A lot of the keys work, but when I hit the enter key, it puts garbage characters up, and the same with the backspace key. So it seems that we're going to have to take apart the keyboard, look at the assembly, and figure out what's going wrong in here. This keyboard was made to be non-user removable, so I pretty much removed every screw I could find on the back of this, and then carefully went through the edges to release tabs, and it just didn't want to come out. Well, finally I found out that there was one more screw left that was in plain view that I had overlooked. Anyway, after taking that screw out, everything came apart. Here's the non-user removable keyboard connector, which as a user I have now removed, and I can lift out the keyboard, and it's probably going to have a million screws on the back side. And it does. And when I take those screws out and I lift the PCB, things are going to go flying, and well, anyway, it's going to be fun. However, a correction. I think I said this was from 1983, which is untrue, because if we look at the keyboard, it clearly says that this was manufactured in December of '85, and when looking at the outer cover of the keyboard, this was manufactured in January 2nd of 1986. So my estimate was wrong. It's actually not 40 years old, but 38 years old. So now I will proceed, take all of these lovely screws out, and expose the inner mechanism. Here's the PCB that sits below the key bed. You can see the capacitive pads over here, and the keyboard itself. So when we press a key, like here, this comes down closer to the pads on the PCB, changes the capacitance, and that's how a key press is detected. So now if we look at this closely, I looked at these pads and I figured, no problem. I can make these myself. Well, no, I can't. This one, this, and this one. It turns out that this is basically a sandwich where you have foil, foam, and a rigid backing plate in each of these sandwiches here. And the foam has completely, in any key that I looked at, the foam is disintegrated. So as I was pulling these out, we'll do that, we'll start pulling these guys out, but the foam basically that is a necessary part of this functioning has given up its life over the past few years. And I got some foam. How hard can it be to make a foam sandwich, right? And use some metal on top and, well, no, it wasn't that simple. Because these contacts actually have an insulating layer on them, because otherwise it would just short everything on the board when you press it down. So what I did was I used metal stuff, and that's just shorting things, and that's why we're getting all those weird key presses. And here I'll demonstrate with the multimeter set to continuity. Here's an original pad. You can see I'm touching it. It's not beeping. There is an insulating layer on top of this metal disc, and that's what makes it work as a variable capacitor. But the ones I made, I didn't pay attention. I just put metal on there. The ones I made are fully conductive, and they were just pressing down on the PCB. If you look at the PCB, see there's traces running in between the two plates. So I was just shorting everything together with the new keys I made, with the new pads I made, and that's why I failed. And that's why I did some searching, and found these. I paid for these. No, I drove to Texas to buy this bag, so there's no promotional support, but Texelec's got some pretty neat stuff. But anyway, now I got to go in and replace every single one of these guys with one of these. And additionally, I should probably pull all of these keys off and wash them because they are filthy. So I guess that's what we'll do first, and then we'll clean everything else, replace the foam and foil pads, and see what happens after that. Change of plans. These keys sit in here really, really, really tight. And yeah, you can use the key removers or use plastic screwdrivers to pry them up. This, the spacebar seems to have a lot of stuff underneath it, so I'm going to forego the remove the keys and just clean it as best as I can in place. And I'm going to do that before I change any of these, so if any of the cleaning solution drips through, it doesn't matter if it gets on these pads because they're all going to get taken out. So, here you go. This is the dollar store special. And it actually works quite well. It's probably not as environmentally friendly as simple green, but it does work. So this is about as clean as it'll get without removing the keys. No, I'm not going to retrobrite this because retrobriting is not a permanent solution. And so, well, we're done with the top of the keyboard. Now down to the real job, the foam and foil caps. So let's remove one and see. Let's just pick one randomly and remove it. Yeah. The foam disintegrates, as you can see here, and there's still a whole bunch of it left in here. And there's a rigid disc here, which just flew out, which of course is supposed to be attached to the other side of the foam. And yes, the foam is disintegrated and is pretty much useless. But the good part is, if we look at the inside of the contact assembly, it's clean. Seems to work well. So all I got to do now is sit down, remove all of the pads, clean up all the foam that is turning to dust and will spread everywhere, and then put the new ones in. After some experimentation, I think I found a quick way to do this. Let's see. So you take a fine bladed screwdriver and you insert it in the lower right corner, and the whole thing comes out. Now, so here's one that is still in one piece. This is actually in good shape, could probably be reused, but we're going to put all new ones in anyway. They're all out. No tabs were broken or harmed. And there's what came out. Most of these pads were in different state of disintegration. The foam part, that was. The rigid part and the metal parts were all okay, but yeah, it all had to be taken out. And it didn't even create that much foam dust. So now let's figure out how to put the new ones in. Alright, they're all back in. It was kind of fiddly because there's 4 tabs in the corners of each of these. And if we look at the one of these pads, the bottom is a non-conductive rigid disc. There's foam in the middle. Then there's a conductive disc that has a layer on top of it. So the disc is conductive, but that's for the purposes of changing the capacitance. So the top is actually not conductive. And this rigid disc down here, has to fit within the 4 tabs that are in these housings. And that gets a bit fiddly. But you figure out a routine, and the very first one takes really long, and then once you get going, the rest is a breeze. So let's try this out. Well, you can see that I haven't put the whole thing together yet. Just sandwiched the 2 PC boards together. Well, let's see if it works, and then we can put it together. Because if it doesn't, I don't want to have to take the whole thing apart again. So what do you think? Will it work? You can gaze at the wonderful, beautiful keyboard. That is all clean now. Well, mostly clean. And fortunately, the foam and foil pads come with a lot of excess. I think this is a 103 key keyboard, and there were another 27 extras in here, which is very considerate. Oh, it worked. Has key repeat built in. I think it's being done in this chip over here on the keyboard, actually. Numlock key works pretty much, yeah. Shift keys. I think we got a winner here. It was worth the pain and suffering of replacing these guys. Well, removing them was easy, but putting them back in, yes, was definitely a pain. And it's got to be a labor of love. So, of course, the big question is the main cause of what caused us to do all of this, is that fixed? And that is the enter key. Yes, it is. So now backspace works. Alright, the keyboard is fixed. Well, all is well, I think. Yeah, the keyboard's working fine now. The hard drive hasn't lost the bearing yet, so we're good. So for those of you who'd like to see what's inside of this guy and what it can do, stay tuned for the next episode where we do an in-depth look at this beautiful machine. Please like, subscribe, do all the other good stuff, and we'll see you next time.